Welcome into the Fantasy Football Forge. We are on to week 16, the waiver report. Hopefully, all you need is a quarterback because that's about the best that this week's waiver wire has to offer. Pretty thin. Should be a quicker episode, of course. Before we get into that, we will follow up all the possible guys who could return this week, and of course the injuries from this previous week. If you're watching this video, I assume that you are moving on in your playoffs, or maybe for some of you it is going to be the first week of your playoffs. So good luck moving forward. Congratulations on getting as far as you've gotten. Also, I won't do a waiver wire video for week 18, but I will be doing rankings for week 18. So if you go into week 18, don't worry. I won't leave you behind. I know that's not the majority of you, but for those of you that need that help, I will be here as well. Also, don't forget, I am filming this prior to the Monday Night Football game, so if anything major comes out of the Monday Night Football game, if I missed anything, I will put that down in the comments. If I realize I missed somebody that's available on the waiver wire that you should be looking into, that information would be down there, and then any injuries that are of note from the Monday Night Football game. Let's follow up on some injuries here. Christian Kirk, if you do have a week 18 game in your league, maybe he could come back for that, although I saw a news report suggesting he probably won't be able to. As far as everybody else on this list, they all have the potential to be coming back. A.J. Dillon, Josh Jacobs, Alexander Madison, Jonathan Taylor, Isaiah Pacheco. It is expected that he will be back this week. Had surgery on his shoulder last week, but they sounded positive when they announced the surgery, and they sounded positive with the news report that came out today, or a report of some sort, that he's supposed to be coming back this week. So just a heads up on that, as well as for CH and Jerick McKinnon owners out there, or people maybe thinking about getting them off the waiver wire, though they are still on my waiver wire list for the running back position, because we don't know for sure about that. Others, Chris Olave, Nico Collins, Kenny Pickett, Ramondre Stevenson, all possibly, within this window where they could be coming back this week. Christian Watson, Brian Robinson, possible to return from their hamstrings at this point. We will see on those. As we know, hamstrings are a fickle thing. Tutu Atwell, it has cleared concussion protocol, so he is returning. CJ Stroud, it is likely that he will be able to return, but as we know, concussions can be fickle. Most of the time it's 1 week. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's much longer. So we don't know yet on CJ Stroud. I know as of Monday, he has not cleared concussion protocol. Tyreek Hill with that ankle, I would say he's probable to return. He was, close to being able to play this past weekend. So, probable. Then Michael Thomas and Luke Musgrave each could come back from IR this week as far as my tracking goes. Hopefully I got that correct. So keep an eye on those two. As far as new injuries that we've had, unfortunately, Keaton Mitchell had a knee injury that is going to be ending his season. Zach Moss with an arm injury, report coming out today that he is hopeful to be able to play this upcoming weekend. And I also do think that there's a decent chance that Jonathan Taylor will be coming out and playing this weekend. So just keep an eye on that if you're relying on Zach Moss as well. But as far as he goes, hopeful. Hunter Henry, knee injury. I don't really know much more from that, how likely or unlikely it is that that'll keep him out for a week or more. Michael Pittman had a concussion, so the expectation is that he would be missing a week. So that sucks. Marquise Brown with the heel injury. I don't really have... Heel injury is pretty vague, so I can't narrow that down to any kind of time frame. We'll see on him. Jamar Chase, joint sprain, Jesus, in his shoulders. So it's a shoulder injury. He is considered day-to-day. Typically, from what I can tell, we would expect him to be missing a week here. So don't get your hopes up on Jamar Chase, but the team has said he's day-to-day, so that is a positive there. And then Jaden Reed with the toe injury. Could be back this coming week, could be out for 5 weeks. So, that is something. Zay Jones, hamstring injury, he is considered day-to-day, according to the team today. Will Levis, with that ankle injury, has said that he is okay. Also saw a report today that said it's very similar to the injury that Ryan Tannehill had last season, which did keep Tannehill out for some time, but it's an ankle sprain. So, I don't know. The fact that they said it's similar isn't promising since that kept Ryan Tannehill out for some time. Then Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence both suffered concussions this weekend, so we would expect them to miss a week. What I will say, I think this came true last season, is towards the end of the season here, as teams are playing for the playoffs and as we get into the playoffs, I believe that the concussion protocols tend to loosen up maybe a little bit. I feel like we've seen it a little bit later here in latter half of the season where some guys have been returning in less than a week and whatnot. So I do think there's a higher chance that these guys could be coming back in less than a week at this point in time in the season. But we'll see. We'll see if that comes true or not. Let's go on to the waiver wire options at quarterback. There's several options. So if you're needy at quarterback, it's a good time to be needy. We've got Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Matt Stafford are my top three that I would suggest going for. Baker Mayfield has the best matchup this week going up against Jacksonville. Then a tough matchup. So if you are relying on Baker Mayfield, you don't have anybody else, look at this list and maybe grab Derek Carr as well with a really good matchup in a couple of weeks. Or, whatever. Just keep that in mind. But this week, really, really good option. Probably, I don't know for sure that he'll end up being ranked higher than Matt Stafford, but he probably should be. Then Derek Carr, decent matchup this week, and then a good matchup after that. Matt Stafford, tougher matchup, but, out of this bunch, I would say he is the best quarterback. And on the season, though, he hasn't necessarily been the best either. So, yeah, be a little bit wary about him this week, but then he's got the Giants after that. It's a decent matchup. I'm not too afraid of either of these matchups, to be perfectly honest, for Matt Stafford and that offense. I think if they're kicking, they can be kicking. Then Gardner Minshew, just two solid matchups here coming up. That was the plan last week, too, when I talked about him, was that he just had three solid matchups. They weren't great matchups, but they weren't anything to be afraid of. And right behind that, if we're going a little bit deeper, Nick Mullins, Joe Flacco have really good matchups this week. Flacco does have a tough matchup in a couple of weeks. I will say the New York Jets defense might just fall apart here at the end of the season. Not much to play for. Might not be the dominant defense that they've been throughout the entirety of the season, rest of the way. So maybe I think I might trust Joe Flacco a little bit more than Nick Mullins here. Some of his production seemed to be a little bit lucky as well. And then there will be quite potentially the Titans. I've said his name several times. Ryan Tannehill could be coming back this week. I really don't think I want to test the waters on that one though. It could be coming back. Could be playing. Let's move on to the running backs here, and we're really just sticking right up here. So Zamir White, a nothing matchup this week, average, and then Indianapolis in a couple of weeks if he is the starter at that point in time. Could not be available this week. None of these guys are guarantees to be the starters this week. Ty Chandler, very tough matchup. Actually, I saw Detroit was the toughest matchup. I think it was in full PPR, though. Maybe not in half PPR, but the toughest matchup for running backs on the season. And then Green Bay after that, which, it's been a good running back matchup all season long for the most part. Two good options, just the tougher matchup for Ty Chandler this week. I also do think out of the two, it seems like Alexander Madison's return might be a little bit more likely to happen. And in that case, I will say good report today in terms of Ty Chandler was just that he is expected to essentially be the feature back, it sounded like, to get a good amount of work, whether Madison returns or not. So he might be the better option in that backfield, even if they're both healthy. Then Chase Brown. Look, I logged it at the time, and I don't remember. It was either 7 or 9 to 2 touches at the point in the game when Chase Brown got injured. He got knocked out of this game for a while. He was out for the entire third quarter, I know, as far as my memory serves me correctly. And then when he came back, they used him very sparingly. But to start the game, it seems like Chase Brown usurped Joe Mixon as the starter in this backfield. So it's going to be hard to trust that to come true again. We'll have to keep an eye and see if he pops up on the injury report this week. But it's not going to be easy to play him. But if you're Dyer and you've made it this far, he might just be the guy to go for. Put a little bit of faith in it. I don't know. Just saying. And decent matchup there. Then for CEH and Jerick McKinnon, they're very optimistic about Pacheco returning this week, which would make both of these not really very startable at all. But for the meantime, just in case that doesn't come through, they're solid holds if you've already got them on your roster, or if you miss out on some of these guys, they wouldn't be bad to have on the back end of your roster just in case. And then we've got Trey Sermon, Tyler Goodson. Like I said, I think one of those Indianapolis running backs is going to come back, one of the starters. But if they don't, they're going to get an opportunity. Unfortunately, it's a very, very tough matchup. The reason that they're small isn't so that they would fit in this, smaller font here. Isn't so that they would fit. It's because I really, really don't want to mess with these two. I think I would rather take the shot on a Tyjae Spears than go in one of those routes, even if they're the starting duo this weekend. Let's move on to the wide receivers, where, we're going to put Zay Jones at the top of this list for me. Going up against Tampa Bay, it's a very good matchup. So I like that. Unfortunately, hamstring injury, day-to-day, not looking good. Honestly, I don't know why I have him up here. I think I forgot about the hamstring injury when I was making this list. So, he's not in bold anymore. That's very much true. And actually, it's just not a good wide receiver waiver wire week. I have Romeo Doubs up ahead of Dontavian Wicks yet. But that being said, nothing wrong if you want to go with Dontavian Wicks over Romeo Doubs as an option. Don't love either of them going up against Carolina. It's been a run funnel. The only thing is the Packers don't really have much of a running game right now. So maybe we could ignore that this upcoming week. It's going to be tough to completely ignore it. But, just something to think about, that the Packers still might have to pass anyways against Carolina. And so Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks are going to be solid options out there for you to get if you're desperate at wide receiver. Zay Jones is... probably shouldn't have made the list, or at least be at the bottom of that list there. Free agent guys, these might be better options to just take a shot on than Zay Jones because of that hamstring injury. We'll see. Maybe he's practicing limited all week and it ends up being nothing, but it's tough to trust that. So Curtis Samuel, Rashid Shaheed, Noah Brown, Josh Palmer, all going to be solid options if need be. I will say don't get too hyped up on Josh Palmer. It was only 4 targets in the game. It's still Easton Stick at quarterback. But, it also did happen. He did have a big game, so we can't completely ignore that. And then Noah Brown, decent chance that Nico Collins returns in that event. We're not going to be too jacked about Noah Brown there, but still excited enough. And that's going to bring us on to those tight ends that you can already see on the screen. We'll get the DSTs down there as well while I talk about the tight ends, because these are going to be quick. I'm not trying to chase the recent touchdown success of Hunter Henry. However, he has had that recent success. He had success earlier on in the season, and he's playing up against Denver. It's a really good tight end matchup. So we are going to chase it in the sense of the fact that we got a really good matchup for a guy who's been lighting it up as of late. Then Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave going up against Carolina. It's not a great matchup, but might not be bad to have the Packers tight end this week. Of course, if Luke Musgrave returns, then Tucker Kraft's stock will go down probably significantly. We'll just see. Have to feel that out this week, but it doesn't hurt to have either one of those, whatever, on your roster if that is the route that you think you're going to end up going there. And then for the DSTs, looking forward as well here to week 17, some good matchups, not bad matchups for these 3. Indianapolis Colts are at the top of the list for me once again, just solid matchups all the way through to your championship from last week on forward, and they've been performing quite well. Then the Denver Broncos, they've been better as of late. Stumbled maybe a little bit last week. Going to have New England here. That's a good matchup. Then they're going to have Easton Stick and the Chargers in a couple of weeks. That's probably a pretty darn good matchup as well. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to get Tampa Bay, who I wouldn't put too much stock into what they did against Green Bay. It was a terrible, terrible defensive plan. And on top of that, I think that the players just didn't execute well. It was a perfect recipe. Tampa Bay absolutely slaughtered Green Bay's defense. And I don't think that was 100% because Tampa Bay is on fire right now. So be a little bit careful about, I guess in terms of Jacksonville, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. And then got Carolina in a couple of weeks for Jacksonville. So that's a nice way to end the season there for Jacksonville DST. And there you go. That is the waiver wire for this week. Nice, quick, and sweet, hopefully. And good luck. Obviously, rankings videos will be coming out throughout the week as normal. You can always ask questions on any of the videos for your start-sit questions, and you can ask waiver wire questions as well. Even if the guys aren't on my list, feel free to ask about it. And that's it. Thank you very, very much. It's been a wonderful season. It's been nice meeting a lot of you. Welcome to the channel for those that are newer. And yes, I appreciate everything. Let's go.